Welcome to the 6th induction for the Hall of Achievement for the Watertown City School District. I'm Patty LaBarre. Although people who shine from within don't need the spotlight shining on them, tonight we're going to honor and celebrate many of our Watertown High School graduates who have gone out and done something either in their personal or professional lives to make a difference in the world. And as we shine the light on them this evening, we also shine the light on our community. This is the perfect timing for us to do so. As we ease out of the pandemic, it's almost symbolic, like this is the light at the end of the tunnel. So again, congratulations to our inductees, and thank you so much for being positive role models for our students, for our school, for our community, and for our country. The world is a better place because of you. May your successes be a reminder for all of us to live as though the spotlight is always shining on us. Please join our student representatives, Kenneth Forbes and Necia Smith, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we would like to introduce the Select Choir singing the National Anthem.
The video features the whole Select Choir singing with the spotlight on our 2021 Select Choir seniors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Welcome to all those attending in person or virtually, and thank you to the Watertown High Select Choir for their performance. I'm Dr. Jason White, class of 1992. I'm the son and grandson of Watertown High graduates, and we're here today to celebrate the 6th induction ceremony in the 20th year since the inception of the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Achievement. Since 2001, there have been 51 individuals who have been elevated to this place of honor, and today we're going to be adding 9 more individuals. The Watertown High School District had its roots back in the settling of the area by New England pioneers in 1800. This is said that the first school was taught by Sally Coffeen, the daughter of city pioneer Henry Coffeen, in a barn behind Isaiah Massey's Inn on what is now Lower Washington Street. As the village grew, so did the need for more formal education, and within a stone's throw of the center of the city, Watertown High School was built and remained until 1949, when the cornerstone was laid at the present campus. At one point, the community grew so quickly that they needed 13 elementary schools and 2 junior high schools to prepare students for attending Watertown High School. Students of all walks of life graced these schools. One notable member of the Hall of Achievement was U.S. Secretary of State Robert Lansing. He was class of 1882 And while at the pinnacle of influence, he negotiated the Treaty of Versailles, which concluded the First World War. The hall also included Anthony C. Mallara, class of 1954, who started as an announcer at the WWNY TV station here in downtown Watertown. He rose to station manager before gaining a corner office in New York City as president of CBS Television. A third student included Gary Beasley, class of 1966, who served as an executive director of the nonprofit Neighbors of Watertown, where they led the way in developing, preserving, and rehabilitating many historic buildings in downtown Watertown. These students made their mark at the local, national, and international levels. Other inductees included three-star generals, entertainers, engineers, public servants, physicians, inventors, artists, educators, and many more. As we fast forward to 2001, the administration of the school district was able to look back and admire nearly 200 years of educational progress. But it was felt fitting to formally recognize individuals who called Watertown their alma mater. This led to a search throughout the state to see how other school districts accomplished this task. And led by Randy Richardson, the chairman, the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Achievement was born. The introduction plaque reads, "The Watertown City School District Distinguished Alumni Hall of Achievement honors Watertown High School graduates who attained a high level of distinction in their lives and provide positive role models for students of the district. The criteria for nominating graduates to the Watertown City School District Distinguished Alumni Hall of Achievement are based on an outstanding or unique contribution or level of service in their community, profession, or other good cause, whether it be local, regional, national, or international. Merriam-Webster defines achievement as a great or historic deed, a result gained by effort. It's clear that each member of this esteemed group has provided great effort to reach their goals. As I mentioned, we will induct 9 new members into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame today. This will bring the total to 60 individuals, for which the present students, the community, also can admire with plaques that will be prominently displayed in the lobby of Case Middle School here on the Washington Street campus. Thank you to everyone who's joining us both in person and virtually as we continue to honor our heritage and those who made a mark on our community. Next, I'd like to introduce Michelle Jewson, who will introduce our next 9 inductees. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gehring-Jakin, class of 1984. As the 2020-2021 school year concludes, it is an interesting time to reflect. Our students have been challenged with redefining what it means to learn in the face of unimaginable circumstances. Tonight, through our achievements of our inductees, we prove to this next generation that unimaginable is nothing more than the precursor to moments being reimagined. We celebrate and honor alumni who have proven that unimaginable is just a word. How fortunate we are to celebrate such notable Watertown graduates when hope and innovation are the beacon guiding our youth today. It is my pleasure to introduce you to all of the 2021 inductees of the Watertown City School District Hall of Achievement. Richard A. Dillon, class of 1946. Dr. Eugene M. Runzi, class of 1948. Dr. Alan K. Percy, class of 1956. Mary Margaret Humes, class of 1972. Mary Gay Scanlon, class of 1976. James Berkman, class of 1978. Dr. William A. Kleiby, class of 1979. Robert L. Berry, class of 1981, and Maggie Reiser Marin, class of 1996.
Hello, I am Jerry Gozier, class of 2002, and currently a Spanish teacher at Case Middle School for the Watertown City School District. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to Richard Dillon Jr., son of 2021 inductee Richard Dillon. It is an honor and privilege to announce your father's selection for this year's induction. Mr. Dillon was an American comic artist, best known as an illustrator of DC Comics' superhero team series, Justice League of America. He drew 115 issues from 1968 until his death in 1980. As one of the nation's most prolific comic book artists, his work included Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Black Hawk. I'd like to ask you a couple questions about your father. Number 1, what contribution has your father made that is most meaningful to you?
That he has touched the lives of young and old around the world. I'm very impressed by that, as you can imagine. He was a modest man who didn't make a lot of money, like some of them, and he just drew.
Number 2, what advice do you think your father would give our students to answer this question? If you could do one thing, leave one mark, what should it be?
Follow your dreams. He started at a young age right here in Watertown. He delivered groceries with his wagon and saved up to buy a drawing board. And that drawing board he used his entire life. And right now my son in Buffalo has possession of it, but it's still in the family. All the scratches, nicks, razor blade cuts, whatever.
And question number 3. Had your father ever shared a special memory of his time at the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
Not really with the school district, but with the city of Watertown. Back in his beginning, he was obsessed. He copied Prince Valiant and everything at a young age, and his high school friends and him, you know, that's all they did was draw and paint and do backdrops and all kinds of stuff. And he just had the passion. He's one of those very lucky people that can make a life of something they love.
Is there anything additional that you may wish to share about your father?
Oh, yeah, he was an incredible guy. He was so full of fun and everything that our friends, me and my sisters, used to come over to the house when we weren't there to talk to my father. And when he was at his drawing board, he liked to hear commotion around the house and conversations. And he also had a photographic memory because of back at the time he was doing post-World War II comics, the Black Hawks, and they were writing to him during the Vietnam era and stuff that his insignias were wrong. And his research thing, there was no internet, no Google. He used to send my mother to the library all the time. But once he saw something, he remembered it. And when he finally got to do Justice League, I was just absolutely amazed that he could remember every detail of every character. And just boom. And he would get he was always happy unless he had a deadline.
Hello, my name is Michael Shanley, and I am the audio-visual technician for the Watertown City School District. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce to you 2021 inductee Eugene M. Renzi, class of 1948. It is an honor and privilege to announce your selection to this year's induction. A retired local obstetrician and gynecologist, Dr. Renzi served as an Army physician prior to practicing for more than 40 years, delivering thousands of area children. A graduate of Cornell University and Cornell Medical School, he has been active in various organizations, several of which he has served in leadership roles. While in high school, he was captain of the football team and a class officer. Dr. Renzi, I would like to ask you a few questions. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
I think the war, World War II. It started when I was 11. Pine Camp was converted into training soldiers, and we had I remember the 5th Armored Division, the 4th Armored Division, the 45th Infantry Division, all training there. And I remember them marching off to war. I sold newspapers at the New York Outbreak as the shifts were getting out during the war. There was a shift at 4 and there was a shift at 4:30. And during the break, I would read the newspaper, and the back page listed all the casualties of the local boys. And there wasn't one night when there wasn't a picture of a soldier dying or missing in action or wounded. And I also, during that period, learned my geography of the world, because all of a sudden I knew what all the cities were and countries were in Europe and in the Pacific and in Asia and all of those places. It was a very enlightening period of my life.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If you could do one thing, leave one mark, what would it be?
I think the main thing is to believe in oneself. Believe in oneself. Work is important. No matter what kind of work you do, make your family and teachers proud of you. Do the best you can and become an expert in whatever you're doing, and you will find happiness, I think.
Tell us about a Watertown School District teacher or mentor who has made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I would have to say that the teachers I came in contact with in the Watertown Public School systems, I went to State Street School and South Junior and then to Watertown High School, were all good. And they were there for you, and they wanted to teach you if you wanted them to. They were always available. They were always good teachers. A couple stand out for me, and one was a Vic Remarino, who taught chemistry, and he made class kind of a showtime. He would turn water into wine and etc. And it was always an enjoyable class to go to. And I also had a coach called Bill Graff, and he was excellent. He was a good coach, way ahead of his time, and he took a great deal of interest in me, and he instructed me to shoot high. And so I listened to him, and I did shoot high, and I thought I did the best I could.
Is there anything additional that you wish to share about yourself?
While I'm presently kind of an old man, near the end of my time, I believe in God and family. You have to believe in, we have good times and bad times, and the God and your family are the only, are the true ones that will stay with you and through both. And I think it's important that we remember that and develop our relationship with God and family as we go through this world. They'll always be there for you.
Hello, my name is Randy Richardson, Watertown High School, class of 1988. On behalf of the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee Alan K. Percy, class of 1956. It is an honor and privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. For more than 50 years, a child neurologist devoted to basic and clinical research, Dr. Percy has investigated complex lipid metabolism and developed the first clinical tests for inherited neurodegenerative disorders. He is a highly recognized authority on the clinical care and research in Rett syndrome, a rare neurodevelopmental disorder. Dr. Percy, we'd like to ask you a few questions just to give everyone a sense of your biography and some of the accomplishments you made in your experiences at the high school. Tell me, what contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
Probably, there are lots of things that I could say, but probably it has to do with my 35, almost 40 years of work with Rett syndrome and related neurodevelopmental disorders. I saw this disorder for the first time in 1983, and much as the people who described it initially, I had half of my colleagues who thought it was a real disorder and half who thought it wasn't. But we persisted because it only occurs in girls. We thought it had to be genetic. We had some naysayers there as well. But 16 years later at Baylor, where I was then, the gene was identified. And since that time, we have conducted a number of studies which have led to tremendous advances in both the basic neurobiology of the disorder, but also the clinical problems. And we're currently in a number of clinical trials with many others on the horizon. So to me, I guess this has been my greatest contribution.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If they could do one thing, leave one mark, what should it be?
Well, I've always told my own children and anyone who would listen that as a student, you should always set your goals high. You can always get low, but set your goals high and aim for that mark. And if you are diligent, serious, work hard, the good things will happen to you.
Tell us about a Watertown School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I had a number of really tremendous teachers looking back on it. A mathematics teacher, Mrs. Goodness, a history teacher who was the wife of became the principal, Roscoe Knapp, but she was a history teacher and she was tremendous. And even Mr. Knapp, when he was the principal, I was the president of the student body and had to give morning announcements. And every now and then he'd ask me to sit down and we would talk about mathematics. And he was really a bright man. But the teacher who really impacted me was my senior year English teacher, Morris Harris. He was a tremendous teacher and a very good friend for all of the students, who really gave one an appreciation of the writings, both in English and non-English, that were translated. And I think he imparted a message which has stayed with me to this day. The message, or the special memory, I think, in retrospect, is the tightness of my high school class. We were very close, and I didn't have anything to do with it other than contribute, but there was an effort to create a scholarship fund for the class of 1956, and we have done very well by that. I think we've raised more than, including interest, more than $100,000 for other students of high school who might want to go to college but might have some difficulty otherwise.
And Dr. Percy, is there anything additional that you may wish to share about yourself?
Well, I'm still fairly active. I ran track in high school and college competitively, and I continued to be very active. And I ran not very well for long distance because I wasn't a long distance runner. But about 1985, 90, I decided that running wasn't great for your knees. So I decided to ride a bicycle. And I've been riding a road bike since then, and still ride it. And my wife and I take annual trips, not last year being an exception, usually to Europe to ride with an organized ride by a company named Backroads from California. And these rides are all over the country, all over the Europe. We've actually ridden in Canada and in California. So it's not just Europe, but it's great to be active, to remain active. And I think being physically active keeps you alert mentally, because you certainly have to be alert when you're riding a bicycle.
Hello, I'm Patty LaBarre, Superintendent of Schools for the Watertown City School District. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee Mary Margaret Humes, class of 1972. It's an honor and privilege to announce your selection to this year's induction. Miss Humes is an actress having appearances in more than 50 national network television programs, including 6 seasons on Warner Brothers' Dawson's Creek. She has also guest starred in several shows, including Matlock, Murphy Brown, Erie, Indiana, Grey's Anatomy, CSI, and Criminal Minds, as well as a number of television movies. Ms. Humes, I would like to ask you a few questions. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
Let me see. I think that I am probably a pretty good example of that small town girl who had that huge dream of leaving her little hometown to follow her elusive dream of becoming a television actress in Hollywood. And then suddenly, not suddenly because it took a lot of hard work, but eventually I was able to achieve it, sustain it, and enjoy it for like, oh my gosh, 4 decades of my life. But it certainly didn't come without its share of rejections and heartaches and, you know, a gazillion acting classes and speech classes and different things to prepare myself. But I always lived by this motto that you are never given a dream without also being given the power to make it come true. You may have to work for it, however. So that's how I kind of got through 4 decades of my life, sustaining and enjoying a career as a television actress.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If you could do one thing, leave one mark, what would it be?
I think this was a basic question for me. I think it's treat others the way that you want to be treated. Treat others the way you would want them to treat your children. Live life with integrity. Always lead with your heart. And I think that's pretty much it. Hashtag life lesson. It's just so basic and so simple, you know. There's always an opportunity to be kind, and that's something else that I live by. So I just like to pass that on to you guys.
Tell us about a Watertown City School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
Okay, this one's fun. This one I like. Let me see. It's like, I don't remember what I had for breakfast like 3 days ago, but I remember, there's 2. Number one, it was my kindergarten teacher, if you can believe that. So, you know, how old are you in kindergarten? Like 5, 6? I'm not sure. But it was Mrs. Weaver. And I remember she took us on a field trip out to her farm. And we were going to be capturing tadpoles, or I think they were called pollywogs. I think that's what we called them. And we were supposed to capture them, put them in a mason jar, and we were going to be taking them back to the kindergarten class because we were going to observe them. And when I got home, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when my dad came home from work, I begged my dad to call Mrs. Weaver and ask her if we could come back and return the pollywogs into the pond because I didn't want them to be separated from their family. And I had such a respect for animals, I guess, back then. And Mrs. Weaver was gracious enough to comply with my wishes. So, you know, I don't know, that's 50 years ago. That's pretty good. I can still see the mason jars. So thank you, Mrs. Weaver, for not making me kill any frogs. And then, I like this memory too. I had a teacher in Case Junior High School. It's now called middle school. You just told me that. His name was Fred Feldman. He was my homeroom teacher. He was an art teacher. He was this really cool guy from, I think it was New Jersey. And I loved having him for a homeroom teacher because he always had this very cool vibe going on. He had cool music. He treated us more like his friends than his students. He was always a good one to go to for, you know, fun advice. And I think that actually being in his class and in his homeroom, that is what sparked my imagination to become, to go into the arts and entertainment rather than, you know, academics, because, you know, I pretty much wasn't that great of a student in math, or did we call it arithmetic? I think we called it arithmetic. So I wasn't that great with the math or the science, the biology, the killing the frogs, and no, it wasn't me. Music just, it's a gateway to your imagination. So I really credit Fred Feldman. I think we're actually friends on Facebook to this day. I credit him with helping me make that decision to go into arts and entertainment. And this cool little sense memory that I have about being in that class is every time that I hear the song, what was it, White Room by the rock band Cream from like the 60s, way before your time, Patricia. Every time I hear that song come on the radio, I think of Fred Feldman, the teacher right next door, Mr. John Pike, who was also an art teacher. And I just smile because I just give them credit for being there at the genesis of, you know, what was to be. So thanks, Fred. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mrs. Weaver.
Is there anything additional that you may wish to share about yourself?
You know, I always talk about dreams and chasing your dreams and living your dreams, but I think it's important to understand at this particular time and space, you only have this moment. So don't look so much into the past and go to that, oh, if only I had done this, and don't, you know, go too much into the future. Don't anticipate things because that usually causes, you know, stress and anxiety. You just need to, you know, be mindful, live in the present. Dreams can change and take different forms, and you have to remember that dreams don't necessarily come with expiration dates. So don't be so hard on yourself and give yourself a break.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jason White, class of 1992, and on behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, from the class of 1976. It is an honor and a privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. First elected to Congress in 2018, Ms. Scanlon represents Philadelphia, Pennsylvania and the surrounding suburbs, and was once the only woman serving in the 20-member delegation of the Pennsylvania congressional delegation. a public interest lawyer and former school board president. She is a longtime advocate for civil rights, education, children, and youth. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
Well, it would have to be my family, raising 3 kids that I'm very, very proud of. But with respect to the work that I've done over time, it really has to do with being a voice for people who wouldn't otherwise have one. My work as a lawyer was with legal services and volunteers working with legal services. So when I was in law school, the first time I ever went into court was to see a woman who was being evicted. And we watched her case, and her lawyer didn't do a good job. And he kind of made fun of her for not being able to afford a lawyer. And, I say that many of the things I've done have been as a result of an anger management problem, but it made me really mad that this woman was in such distress and the person who was supposed to help her didn't. So, there's a pretty clear through line to where I am today, particularly in the midst of the pandemic, where so much of the work we've been doing through Congress has been to make sure that people have the resources so they don't get evicted, so they can pay their rent, so they can pay their mortgage. So just really trying to make sure that folks who don't traditionally have a seat at the table get to have their say.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If they could do one thing, leave one mark, what would it be?
I think it's going to be different for every person, but what they need to do is figure out what they care about and then do something about it. In our family, we've always talked about, sometimes it's just about showing up. So, and everybody can do that, whether it's contributing food to a food drive, whether it's helping a neighbor shovel their walk. If it's, a policy matter, researching the policy matter and then getting together with other people. And the biggest thing I'd ask them to do is show up at the voting booth, because that's the only way that things change. And too often people just complain, but show up at the voting booth, think about running for office. It's a great way to clarify what you really think and be able to defend it.
Tell us about the Watertown School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I was trying to think of this in terms of a good thing and maybe a less good thing. So thinking about teachers, probably I would have to think about Mary Jane Yarmer, who was an English teacher back when I was in school. And she also was the advisor for the school newspaper. And, in the English and the literature realm, I was kind of thinking about what's outside of Watertown, and literature gave me a way to explore that and think about things in a different way. And then just the newspaper, what's going on in our world? How do you find out about it? Thinking about those things in a bigger way. So that was a great experience. There were other great teachers, but that one probably spoke to me the most directly. Probably the less good thing that happened when I was in high school, although it may have been junior high now that I'm thinking about it, they still divided a lot of subjects by gender then. So girls took sewing and home ec and typing, and boys took shop and woodworking and etc. Well, I refused to take typing, because even then I was bound and determined that I was going to be a lawyer. And in those days, lawyers did not type their own documents. I didn't want to be confused with a secretary. As our first Supreme Court Justice, female Supreme Court Justice, was Sandra Day O'Connor. When she graduated from Stanford Law, she wasn't able to get a job as a lawyer. She was hired as a legal secretary first. So I was very aware of kind of the gender dynamics and refused to take typing. But of course, a couple decades on, everybody has a personal computer. I still hunt and pack far too much. So that was probably a mistake, but I think I did it for the right reasons.
Is there anything additional you may wish to share about yourself?
I think I would tell current high school students I was far from a superstar. I was a good student, but I wasn't the best student. I was athletic, but I was not an athletic star. I think I went out for track my senior year and ran exhibition. I was so bad. But a couple decades later, I was winning medals in recreational races throughout the Philadelphia area. I was painfully shy. I think a lot of my classmates would be shocked to hear that I'm a congressperson now, because at the time I pretty much felt like a wallflower. But I know particularly after having my own kids, most teenagers feel that way, don't feel like we fit in, and just, are in the process of figuring out who we are. So it is a journey. I would encourage kids to think about that. And it definitely has been something that I enjoy being involved with these days. I've been involved in youth mentoring now for quite some time, starting through home and school activities with my own kids, and then starting a mentoring program at a charter school, a magnet school in Philadelphia. And today I'm co-chair of the Congressional Youth Mentoring Caucus. So it's something I really enjoy, particularly with respect to young women who are trying to find their voice.
Hello, I am Kenneth Forbes, Watertown High School Senior Class of 2021. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee James Berkman, Class of 1978. It is an honor and a privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. In his 3 decades as head coach of the Salisbury University men's lacrosse program, Mr. Berkman has become the winningest coach in NCAA lacrosse history in any division. He has presided over 560 career wins, including 12 national championships, and is a member of the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
Well, I think, what I do for a living is I help boys become men. And I've been doing that for 33 years. And, when I get them and they're 17 and 18-year-olds and they graduate and they're 22 and 23 years old, I think that what they learn from going through our program and my relationship with them, that we transpire them from, boys to men, and men who know how to be successful and on all levels. They learn that effort equals outcome. They learn to outwork their talents. They learn the responsibility to be good citizens of the community. And so when it's all said and done, on a daily basis, we're molding, the future of our communities here at Salisbury University through the game of lacrosse and through their experience. And, all my guys that have gone on from here, one of the stats I'm most proud of is that over 200 of the 400 guys I've coached still give back to the game and coach in some capacity because of the great experience they had here and the good coaches that they became through their experiences as players. But, my guys, no matter who you talk to, they always speak about how to learn how to work hard. They know how to commit to something. And at the end of the day, they're very thankful of their experience and how hard it was, because at the end of the day, they know they're now ready for the next chapter in their lives.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If they could do one thing, leave one mark, what should it be?
I think it's kind of what I do every day. I think that, to be successful in life, you can't be concerned about I. It's always got to be from a we perspective. And they got to learn that through helping others, they're going to end up being a lot more successful themselves. And if they don't care and see ways that they can help those around them reach their potential, then they're never going to win in life. At the end of the day, when you help others, it's amazing, how much it helps your own self when it all's said and done. But, like I just use an experience with our guys, that I can kind of share with you maybe, that, we've had some guys that really do a great job in the weight room, and they come here but they're very eye oriented. They're always there by themselves. And then I've taken several of those guys that were so motivated and showed them that it was more about we than I. And when they go there, to drag a couple other people with them and then teach them what they've been fortunate enough to learn. And at the end, not only do they have a big impact on somebody, but in the end, what happens is they become a better leader themselves because of that mentorship. But in the end, the team and their own success becomes a lot better. So I just think, throughout the day and throughout your year, what have you done today, and what have you done this week, and what have you done this semester to help someone else reach their potential, whether it was help mentor somebody in your algebra class, whether it was going out and playing catch with somebody in your sport, or, just maybe helping somebody do just something that they couldn't do. And then all of a sudden, man, they do it. They become thankful. They become inspired. And in the process, it's a chain reaction too. Now, it's not just you helping them become better. They have a good experience. So what in turn do? They now in turn feel like they're going to help somebody else. And that's what you learn to have great communities, because you get some people that mentor people and help each other, and it becomes contagious. So if they can just do something each day to help someone else, they're going to make themselves and those around them better, but they're going to make their community much better.
Tell us about a Watertown School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I think there's two things that stick out in my mind. Obviously, Coach Kibling had a big bearing on my life, and it just didn't start in high school. It started back when I was in kindergarten and first grade, when he was the PE teacher at Cooper Street School back on the north side where I lived. And I just remember how motivated he was, and how he mentored us at a very young age. I remember the intramural basketball program we had when we were first and second grade that was beyond reproach, to inspire people to get better at the game. And, and then later when he moved on to Watertown High to teach and then become my coach in high school, I just remember, the guy that was the first in, last to leave. And that's kind of who I've been for 33. We're the first guy in the office in the morning. We're the last guys to leave practice. Because of Coach Kibling, we kind of have the lights out part of our practice each day. Who turns the lights out today? What coach? And that coach won't turn the lights out until the last player is ready to has done his extra shooting or whatever. And, I've always taken that from Coach Kibling. And, he always got to the gym early. I was always one of the first one out the door. There were maybe an hour before practice. And I usually was one of the last ones to leave. And he left that door open after practice, usually for an hour almost every day. And that always kind of inspired me. And I always wanted to be a coach because of it. And I always just appreciated my time with him, how hard he worked, how much he pushed us. A lot of guys thought we were overworked. But at the end of the day, I think anybody that played for him is attest to even the guys that still communicate him on a daily basis. And, I think he just turned 86 this year. He definitely inspired us to work harder. So he was probably my number one mentor my whole time, during the time. I think if there's one incident, I think it's the incident's probably the difference in my life today was sitting in the hallway outside Watertown High School gym the day before basketball, or the day before baseball and lacrosse started practice in the spring. And I guess that would be 76. In 76, I only had played my first year in high school. I'd only played basketball and soccer, and I didn't play a spring sport. But in my sophomore year, I said to myself, one of my goals were that I wanted to win the Graff Award. I wanted to be the outstanding athlete at Watertown High School. And back at that time, you couldn't play two sports like you probably can now. You had to play three sports. You had no chance. So, it was coming up to the spring of my sophomore year. I was like, I got to start playing three sports or this isn't going to happen for me. And I had my baseball glove on my hand, and I'm sitting out there outside the gym the day before practice is supposed to start. And one of my best friends at the time was Pete Powell, who was a good lacrosse player and a good friend of mine, a graduate of Watertown High. And he kind of convinced me that in that lunch period that day that, I probably should be playing lacrosse and not playing baseball the day before practice started. So that night I went down and I bought a stick, a Super Light 2 that used to glow in the dark. And the next day I went out for lacrosse. And I think back of one moment in time and one moment in my life, if I hadn't done that on this day, would all of this stuff kind of happen if I've been fortunate to be put in this situation? So I was blessed by God and, somebody watching over me on that day to change my route. And, it's been a blessing in disguise. And I did go on to win that Graff Award and be the outstanding athlete and had a great career at St. Lawrence in two sports. And, I was fortunate to meet a lot of people along the way that have helped me get to where I am today in one of the elite programs in college lacrosse.
Is there anything additional that you may wish to share about yourself?
No, I just think, from my experience, I had a great experience at Watertown High. I couldn't ask for anything more. I got to play 3 sports. I had good mentors and good coaches. I was an honor roll student. I was in the honor society, and was fortunate to have some of the best teachers. And a guy whose dad died when he was 16, and really never got to see him play lacrosse. In a one-parent family growing up, when my mom had never worked. Watertown provided the opportunity for me to go to St. Lawrence and be prepared to be successful academically and athletically. And I'll always be indebted to Watertown High School and the Watertown School District for preparing me for life and in the next level. And I'll never look back and have any regrets, about the Watertown School District, that's for sure.
Hello, I am Nesia Smith, class of 2025, currently attending Case Middle School. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee, Dr. William Kleiby. It is an honor and privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. Dr. Kleiby is a gynecologic oncologist and surgeon at the Mayo Clinic. With his passion for patient care and education, he has made advances in cancer surgery, research, and surgical education. He has held institutional and national leadership positions and was training director for 13 years. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
Yeah, to me, my job, I'm a gynecologic cancer surgeon. And I've always been involved in education. I was the program director. I've been fortunate for our fellowship for training. And I've been fortunate to work at one of the best medical centers in the world, Mayo Clinic. And so my biggest influences for sure have been on an individual level with women that I've been able to take care of with ovarian cancer, uterine cancer. And then equal to that, I think, has been my ability to serve as an educator. So as I said, I was a program director for fellowship, and I helped shape fellowship training across the country in our specialty, which, again, you as educators all understand this, and it's just a way to help people succeed, reach their goals, and then by virtue of their success, reaching thousands of other women with this disease. So I think those have been my biggest accomplishments.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If they could do one thing, leave one mark, what should it be?
Yeah, so that one's a tough question, right? Because right away when you're a student, right now in your life, what can you do? And if I could go back, the things I would do differently is I would engage with my teachers more on a one-on-one level and open up to them more and look to them for more mentorship and advice. As educators, I can tell all of the students that is what we want to do. But there is often a barrier, especially as you get through middle school and high school, of really forming relationships with teachers that can be mentoring instead of just someone at the front of the class teaching. And I think that really enriches your lives. And then long-term, big picture, boy, it's finding something you are passionate about. I know that's such a hard one to do, especially when you don't know what's out there. But going deep, not superficial, and for me, picking a job where you're helping people, it makes getting up in the morning always easier and at least always necessary because you're going to be helping somebody. And I think that is another similarity with the service fields like medicine and education is you are mostly doing this for someone else and gives your life meaning.
Tell us about a Watertown School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I have almost nothing but positive experiences. My brother and I were the first ones in our family to go to college, and so we came from a poorer background. And I had great teachers. I can remember, as we were just talking about, I can remember all of my first through sixth grade teachers, including kindergarten, because they were just such positive people. And you only had the one teacher. We had the neighborhood schools back then. in Watertown, and we were in the first class that went to Wiley, where the big open platform. Yeah, and in sixth grade, I remember I think it was a new teacher at the time, Mr. Krayenbecker, and I don't know whatever happened to his career. We didn't stay in touch or anything, but he was very good at giving us autonomy as students, even in sixth grade, letting us have some say in our curriculum, have some say in how we spent our recess time, and really respected that. And I think that was eye-opening for me to have a teacher like that. And again, I've had nothing but positive experiences from Watertown High and Watertown City School.
Is there anything additionally that you may wish to share about yourself?
Not really. I try to be humble. Like I said, we grew up with not a ton of money, but I had two loving parents who valued education and always knew that if we worked hard, we would and could get ahead. I had lots of teachers that were more than willing to help. And yeah, I think that having that kind of both home life and school life is it's what I owe any success to, for sure.
Hello, I am Michelle Gravel, District Clerk of the Watertown City School District. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee Robert L. Berry. It is an honor and privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. Over the span of his career, Mr. Berry has invented and brought to market medical devices in the fields of interventional cardiology, radiology, pulmonology, and oncology, attaining over 30 patents. He is the founder of 4 medical device companies, leading 3 of them as CEO. He has extensive board service and has been active in coaching youth sports. What contribution have you made that is most meaningful to you?
That's a really good question. I mean, first thing I would do is probably split that into 2 categories, professionally and then personally, right? I mean, I think personally, we want to be good citizens, and I feel like, a good father, a good husband, all those things that matter most in the end. So that said, I mean, I think that's what I'm most proud of and hopefully what I'll be remembered the most for. But then on the professional side, I think having the ability to impact others, and to really change their lives is, such an honor, and I'm so lucky to be able to have done that. Now, it was through a lot of hard work, don't get me wrong, but I guess I would say that, coming up with a new way to treat people with lung disease that's minimally invasive, that improves their, really meaningfully improves their lives, is awesome. I guess I would say that that's the thing professionally that really has motivated me. And as I look back, knowing that I've been able to do that, and I'm still working towards doing it even further with a second generation of products, is just an incredible feeling.
What advice would you give our students to answer this question? If you could do one thing, leave one mark, what should it be?
So this is a really good question. I would say, maybe I won't answer this quite directly. I think it's really important, more important than ever, that students find their own information, find their own facts. Don't rely on what others are saying. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Go with facts, and I think, and make your own decisions off of those facts. And I think that will help lead you in the right direction, and maybe more importantly, help lead you from going astray. And I think one example of that is, certainly, I think anything to do with the climate. I mean, if you can change the world and save the world, I mean, come on, how much better can you do than that, right? And I think that that's something that, you know, our young, bright minds out there will be able to solve. And it's a wonderful thing to go after. I think there'll be a lot of opportunity there for sure. And then maybe the other piece of advice is, you know, don't rely on what others think of you, say about you, say you can't do. You know, I can't tell you the number of people that said you can't do what you're going to do. It won't work for whatever reason. And if you love it and you're passionate about it and you believe in it and you put your heart into it, you can pretty much achieve anything, and you'll have fun along the way.
Tell us about a Watertown City School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you would be willing to share?
Yeah, I would say there was a teacher I had, algebra teacher, Mr. DiGregorio. And he was a guy that believed that I could learn algebra when I didn't think I could. And I was about to give up on mathematics entirely. And he got me through that. And I wanted to do it because he cared, you know. And so that really inspired me to then to dig in, and yes, I did learn it. And it's interesting because, and I think it's so influential because I went to school for engineering, which then led to all these opportunities to invent products and medical devices. You know, had I not had Mr. DiGregorio, I may have gone a totally different direction that, you know, in the end, I think wouldn't have been as fulfilling as, you know, what my career has been.
Hello, I'm Michelle Gehring-Jakin, class of 1984. On behalf of the Hall of Achievement Committee, I would like to introduce you to 2021 inductee Maggie Reiser-Marin, class of 1996. It is an honor and privilege to announce your selection for this year's induction. Ms. Reiser-Marin has had an extensive and highly successful modeling career, having appeared on the covers of major fashion magazines and walked the runways at countless shows for internationally renowned companies. She has remained active in supporting and increasing awareness of charitable causes. What contribution have you made that's most meaningful to you?
I think probably the most meaningful contribution I've made is my work with HIV and AIDS, helping to raise money and awareness toward the disease. My dad passed away in 1992 from HIV and AIDS, and I was fortunate enough to be given the platform when I started working in modeling to help raise money and awareness, which I was very grateful for. I think I was probably first given the idea that I could do something when the AIDS quilt was brought to Watertown High when I was a senior at school there. I'm not sure which teacher brought it there, but it was really, it was a big deal for me. My dad has a piece of the quilt somewhere, and I wasn't aware at the time if it would be there that day or, you know, where in the world it was. I had never seen it at that point. So that day when it was brought there, it was such, at the same time, a big weight for me being there, because it was sort of like my dad's grave to me, because he doesn't have a grave. But at the same time, it was such an awakening that it was this big, that this giant piece of the quilt that covered the entire gymnasium was really, in fact, just a small part of what it was as a whole. And so when I was given the opportunity, I jumped at it. And I've worked with AMPAR and DIFA and a lot of different organizations, helping to do everything from speaking at an event to hosting and kind of rallying the whole fundraising event. So definitely that.
What advice would you give to our students to answer this question? If they could do one thing and leave one mark, what should it be?
I think the best mark that anybody can leave in this lifetime is being 100% themselves, trying your best to not hide from yourself and who you truly are. I think especially as a student in high school, it's very difficult to be yourself. It's easy to follow trends and to kind of do what you think is cool or interesting or will get a reaction from people. But if you can, as early on as you possibly can, if you can try to figure out who it is that you are deep inside, who it is that you want to be, who you dream to become, and start being that person as soon as you can. Be your most truthful self, be true to yourself, and be true to your family and friends and those who are important to you. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do, because I think a lot of us waste a lot of our lives trying to follow that next trend or, be somebody we're really not. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of courage to finally find yourself, I think, in this life, and not hide from who you really are, no matter if it's, if you're, an artist and your parents want you to be a doctor, if you're gay and your parents and family and friends think you're straight, if you're an introvert and your friends want you to be social, just be true to yourself and who you really are. And I think that, in that way, you're able to be the best version of yourself and offer that person to the people around you.
Tell us about a Watertown School District teacher or mentor who made an impact on you. Is there a special memory of your time in the Watertown City School District that you'd be willing to share?
I was really fortunate to have some really wonderful teachers and faculty while I was at school. This year I homeschooled my 4 kids, and I think it enlightened me to what a teacher really does. Because when I was being a teacher to my kids, of course I'm their mom, but it makes you realize that those teachers there do that every single day, that they are there emotionally for these children. They're there if the kid has a physical problem or if there is a problem with friends, not only intellectually, but it really covers the whole child health. If the health of the child isn't good, they have to be aware enough to notice these small things if mentally something is going on with the child at home. And I realized that, not only did I have the teachers along the way that really gave that to me, but especially in high school when I got there, some teachers that particularly stand out for me are Mr. Pike, who is my photography teacher, and also he was the detention teacher, so I spent a fair amount of time with him there. And he was, not only a wonderful person, but an incredible teacher. He really taught me to think outside the box. I was in the SEEK program there, and my mom pushed, good grades with me all the time. And I had a lot of pressure on myself to get great grades and to be on the honor roll and to get into a great college and to get a job. And it was this sort of structure that I felt kind of pinholed into. But Mr. Pike really opened my eyes to show me that there are other things out there. Photography was something that I'd never thought of as a real job or something that you could earn a living from. And it really, I became really fascinated by photography, which led to my career in fashion. And he also showed me that, the grades were important, but it was okay to, take yourself more lightly and not take yourself so seriously, to joke around and to live life a little bit, less on edge and less focused, I guess, just to have more fun with life. Another teacher who really sticks out in my memory is Mrs. Percy, who was my English teacher, but also, is that right, Mrs. Percy? Is that right? Mrs. Percy, you edit that, right? But Mrs. Percy took us on the study abroad program. So I went to England with her and Paris and Rome. And then we went back a second time and we went to Switzerland, or Switzerland might have been the first time. But she really, my dad had encouraged me to travel at a young age, but Mrs. Percy, when I was in high school after my dad had passed away, it was something that I wasn't really exposed to at the time. And she showed us, that the world was out there and that you could go and travel and it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't that big, bad, scary thing that, I think as a teenager, sometimes you feel like it is. And between the two of them, it really opened a door for me when I went into work in fashion. It just wasn't so scary. It was something that I felt was more attainable, and I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, there were, Mr. Williamson, who was our principal at the time, who was a very kind man. I really appreciated his, he's a parent, and he was very warm and comforting, and also didn't make you feel like you were the worst kid in the world if you messed up here or there, or so there are a lot of teachers, but those are the few that stick out in my mind.
Is there anything additional that you may wish to share about yourself?
Gosh, I think, I think for me, one thing that I would share is that I think life seems sometimes, especially when you're a kid, that it's so important in the moment, and like you're in high school and everything, any little thing is every big thing. And I think you put a lot of pressure on yourself as a kid. I think especially these days with social media and all the celebrities and everything, I feel like it would be really difficult to be a kid right now. And I just, I'm living proof that you can fall down and stand back up again, and that there are good things that you can do all along your path in life. And I'm 40 something, and and I'd like to think, when you ask me that question about something that I'm really proud of, I'd like to think that I haven't done it yet. And I think that the kids that are in school these days, there's so many decades of life for them to have, whether it's getting married and having kids, or having an important career, or traveling the world. These things keep going. And I just feel like, if somebody had told me, if somebody had helped me to believe and understand in 1996 that, the end of the world wasn't going to come when my boyfriend cheated on me, it would have been really nice for me to understand that that was just going to be a little pebble in the road that would, was inconsequential, down the road. And there was a huge life for you to live, and a lot of things for you to achieve. So just, I guess, hope and understanding that there's a big, wide future out there.
On behalf of the entire Hall of Achievement Committee, congratulations to our 2021 inductees. As we close out our ceremony, we will turn the spotlight on North Country students performing the opening scene from the Theory of Relativity under the direction of Tisha Amel from Stage Notes. Enjoy the performance.
Person A. Person B. A is walking towards B at a rate of 2 miles per hour, and B is walking towards A at a rate of 3 miles per hour. How fast does B perceive A to be walking?
Newton's first law of motion. A body in a state of uniform motion will remain in that state of motion unless an external force is applied to it.
I am standing still on the Earth. The Earth spins at a rate of 1,070 miles per hour. The Earth orbits the Sun at a rate of 67,000 miles per hour, and the Sun travels through the galaxy at a rate of 490,000 miles per hour. I am not standing still.
When you're courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red-hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity. Albert Einstein.
Newton's second law of motion. Change of motion that is proportional to and is made in the direction of the force applied.
Person A.
Person B.
If A's position is 7 miles from B, and A is walking at a rate of 4 miles per hour,
and B is walking at a rate of 5 miles per hour at a 45-degree angle to the path of person A, how soon will they meet?
And how will the path of each person be altered by that contact?
If a tree falls in the forest...
Newton's third law of motion. To every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
And no one's there to hear it.
Only alike live for others, so life worthwhile. Albert Einstein.
Does it?
I'm rubber and you're glue. When you say bounces off me, it sticks to you.
I exist only if observed. I am nothing without you. I stand on a marble that hurtles through space. My orbit and path are unique. Around me the planets, they swirl and they race, while I watch here from the
thoughtful and wise. I stand here beside you and I look in your face, and I see myself in your eyes. Now look all around us, more travelers, more eyes, with passions they long to pursue. And there's you, 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 and we're all on this marble that hurtles through space. Our orbits and paths are unique, but with someone beside me to measure my pace, somehow I'm not quite so mean. So I learn what's important, I evolve and I grow, I reach for your hand and hold tight. We are energy, energy. We are mass. We are life.
I'm Maria Masaris, the Watertown City School District Board of Education President. As we congratulate our 2021 Hall of Achievement inductees for all of their remarkable accomplishments, we also want to shine a spotlight on our current and future students. These students hold the potential of being the next extraordinary achievement inductees. May these students work hard and accomplish the dreams, while we thank our current inductees for illuminating the path to distinction.